In this lesson, we're going to discuss how a web client and a web server use IP protocols to interact. We'll start with the web client side. The web client wants to retrieve a web page from the web server. Okay, the web server is located obviously in a different location, and it has been set up in the standard manner of web servers that it is listening for web requests on port 80, TCP. It's at this IP address, and it's at this domain name, or URL in this case. So we're going to go back to our client, and the client is going to put the URL www.learnip.com on the URL line. As we all know, and we have learned so far, the URL must be translated back to an IP address before the transmission can be sent, because the internet, or any network for that matter, doesn't process the domain names, it processes the IP addresses when it's forwarding and transmitting packets. So when it uses the URL www.learnip, the first thing that has to happen is that a DNS lookup has to occur. A DNS lookup is sending a request to the DNS server in order to get back the IP address that has been associated with www.learnip.com. So in this case, it's going to get returned to it the IP address 172.16.10.50. Now, the IP address is what the packet is going to be addressed to. It's going to contain in its data portion the request for the particular web page, the one in the folder www. So it's done the DNS lookup. Then, once that's completed, the message is going to go to be sent over to the web server. So the second thing that has to happen is there has to be a TCP connection created between the web server and the web client. The TCP connection is going to use the IP address of the web client and the TCP port number assigned to the web client. So in this case, I'm going to give our web client an IP address of 192.168.10.15, and we're going to assign a random port above 1024, so it will be 5507. So the TCP connection will be between the source, 192.16.10.15, port 5507, and the destination, 172.16.10.50, port 80. In communications, this is called a socket. Basically, it is the identifier of all the components that belong in this one conversation, the conversation between the web client and the web server. When the web server receives this packet that comes across, what it's going to do with it is it's going to place it in the buffer assigned to port 80, so that the web service will see that it has a request from this device, and it will then formulate the reply with the opposite information, where the source of the reply is the 172.16.10.50, port 80, and the destination is the 92.168.10.15. And I just noticed I forgot the 8s on this side. There we go. Okay, so we have the 192.168.10.15 and the 192.168.10.15, port 5507. All of the packets that are included in this conversation, all of the web requests and all of the web responses, are going to have this same information, so that this conversation will be able to be identified even as it's traveling through the internet. So various things like routers and firewalls and other devices will all be able to read that these packets are part of the same conversation.